agree. Good morning, everyone. I call this Committee of Economic Development, Finance, and Policy to order. Can I have someone move the minutes from February 22?
Madam Chair, I move the minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we have two sets of minutes. So Rep. Ryer moves the minutes from February 21st. Any discussion on the minutes from February 21st? None? All those in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Minutes are adopted. We have another set of minutes from the joint hearing with Children and Families, Finance and Policy on February 22nd. Can I have someone move that minutes?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Minutes have been moved. Any discussion on the minutes? None? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Minutes from the joint hearing with Children and Family, Finance and Policy Committee is adopted. Our first bill up. Rep. Stephenson, welcome to the committee. Have you presented this committee before?
I think, Madam Chair, on the cannabis bill for sure.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Probably
oh, yeah.
other
The
things
famous,
as well.
the famous.
I can say I've hit every committee because of that bill.
How can we forget? Fair enough. How can we forget that? Vice Chair Hansen, can I have you move House File 3608?
So moved, Madam Chair.
All right, House File 36. Oh, we're moving this bill to capital investment. So Rep. Hansen moves House File 3608 to be referred to the Capital Investment Committee. The bill is before us. Rep. Hansen, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This bill would provide $500,000 to just a phenomenal not-for-profit that operates in the North Metro, Haven for Heroes, which serves our veterans who are experiencing homelessness. It operates on the campus of the historic state hospital in Anoka. And so this not-for-profit is special for really two reasons. First and foremost, the fantastic work they do for our veterans, but also because they are preserving really important history for our state and for the city of Anoka. The historic state hospital in Anoka was in operation, for decades, then abandoned for a long period of time. These buildings, which I encourage, if you've never seen them, to take a drive up and take a look, have a great historical significance, and they were really in danger of meeting the bulldozer until the people, and one of whom you're about to hear from, who founded Haven for Heroes, stepped forward and rescued these buildings and have put them to phenomenal use, really helping people who have served our country. So this bill would provide $500,000, which would allow them to continue to restore buildings on the campus and put them to use serving veterans, particularly at another cottage, which when it was historic state hospital was housing, and then the auditorium building. And my testifier will talk more about his plans for those buildings. This is a general fund neutral appropriation because we're canceling an earlier appropriation to a different not-for-profit. That appropriation was made back in 2017, 2018, and has not been expended, and we don't think it will be. The people who are involved with Haven for Heroes were involved in helping secure that earlier appropriation in partnership with the other not-for-profit, so it's nothing against that. It's just that project didn't happen, isn't going to happen, and if we do nothing, it will cancel back to the general fund and not help any veterans. So we think it would be a good idea to help some veterans with this money, which was, after all, the intent. So with that, Madam Chair, I do have Bart Ward with me, who's the founding board chair of Haven for Heroes, and can kind of talk a little bit more about the project.
All right, please introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Madam Chair, committee members, and those in the gallery, my name is Bart Ward. I helped to found Haven for Heroes in 2017. We started to operate at the end of 2017. We got the first cottage, these historic 25,000 square foot buildings, up and running for male veterans. We then opened the fourth cottage, Cottage 4, for women and children veterans in the spring of 2018. And since that period of time, we have been serving male and female veterans and housing children in Cottage 4 and working on Cottage 3. Cottage 3 was a real disaster. It needed a brand new roof. It needed all new windows. We've had over 1,000 volunteers. We have no employees. We are staffed by professional retired folks. We work with both VAs, St. Cloud and the Minneapolis VA. We work closely with the with MACV, the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans. We have about 20 to 25 different partners that we can reach out to. We're way more than housing. While we do provide housing for veterans that are in need of housing, we work with the local colleges, even the high school, helping with education. We work with various work-related organizations. Of course, the County Veterans Service Office, not only in Anoka, but Ramsey, Hennepin, and the surrounding area. We serve about 150 veterans a year who come to the Haven, then transition out. We do have some veterans that have traumatic brain injury or are elderly, and they may never leave us, and that's all right. We're not in the business of bringing people in and trying to shoo them out. Another thing that has recently happened to us is we are able to have up to 5 veterans at a time qualify for HUD-VASH vouchers. I don't know if you know what they are, but well, I call it a hopped-up Section 8 for veterans. We've had 6 of them so far who have transitioned out. We worked with Commissioner Herkey in regard to this, and the VA's Community Resource and Referral Center down in Minneapolis. They're the ones that administer HUD-VASH. So that program has really changed a lot of our folks' lives, and we want to continue to do that. We have had probably 200 to 300 corporations, businesses who have helped us. Give you an example, Marvin Windows built 137 custom-made windows, $250,000 worth of windows for us for Cottage 3. Those were demoed and installed by McGough Construction. Mortensen Construction has been on site. Ryan Construction has been on site. I think there's just about anybody that's anybody in the business of construction we've reached out to help us through donating labor, design work, construction equipment, construction materials. We are not shy about asking for help and not shy about seeking volunteers.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Ward. Do we have another testifier, Rep. Stephenson, or?
I think that's it, Madam Chair.
All right, discussion on the bill. Rep. Norris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for what you're doing. This is a great service that we're offering to our veterans. And there's so many similarities to what we have here with what you're doing and Eagle's Nest in Sauk Center. Older facility, remodeling buildings, making use of the best resources. The problem or concern I have is the money, because, and Eagle's Nest is not in my area, it's just out of my area. We've gone to their fundraiser for the last several years, participated in it. Great facility, great folks, love what they do there. They've had quite a changeover in leadership there, in my understanding. Their current leader, executive director, has been there about 3.5 months. And what we're found is that the $500,000 that was allotted was kind of put on hold because of COVID, first of all. They had some projects in place. COVID came along, pushed things back, another leadership change. And speaking with that individual today, that $500,000 was kind of earmarked for some projects. They have some roof issues that they need to deal with and some other expansions that they're looking at. So my concern is we're taking money from one veterans group, pulling the rug out from underneath what they're doing to give to another, which raises a question, when it comes to deed and we have unappropriated money, is there other money available that is not spent that we could possibly take that from, rather than take from one veteran in need to give to another veteran in need. So if you could answer that, please.
Rep. Stephenson?
Madam Chair, Representative, so the idea behind using this money was the understanding that it wasn't going to be used at Eagles Healing Nest and that it would cancel back to the general fund, that is not be available to them in the very near future. If they've changed their plans and they think they can use it, we can certainly work with them and try and see if that's feasible and make sure, because we don't want this money to just cancel back. Then it doesn't help any veterans, right? So if the situation has changed there, we can certainly talk to them and see about other funding sources. I think this bill, as the motion is to go to the Capital Investment Committee, so there's more time to continue those conversations. This bill is not about saying anything bad about Eagles Healing Nest as an organization. We just want to make sure that the money is getting used to help veterans and not just going back into the general fund.
Do you have a follow-up, Rep. Weiner?
And thank you very much for that. And I think that was the concern with myself as well, is that this money had been sitting there for some time and hadn't been spent. And it looks like it's not going to be spent. But I think especially with the new executive director only being in there 3.5 months, and just reached out to him, finally got some understanding of what was happening with that money, or what the past directors have thought about and what they were going to do, and why the ball got dropped, so to speak. And my concern, like I said, is we're going to pull some veterans out of a situation here where they're looking for that and expecting that money. If we can work together and find another revenue source, or work together, that'd be great. They serve, about almost the same number of veterans. They have 2 locations, about 100 vets. So many similarities. Love the project. Just hate to rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right, thank you. Lead Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where is this bill heading after this committee?
Capital investment.
Madam Chair, do you anticipate that this bill should probably go to the Veterans Committee as well? Representative Weiner brings up a concerning point that we shouldn't be stealing from veterans in one part of the state to help another. And Representative Stephenson, I grew up in Anoka, just down the street on 7th Avenue from where this is. It's very historic, and I'm glad that they're doing something purposeful with this, and I know the community is behind it. But I have concerns, even though I grew up not far from there, that we're hurting veterans in one area and stealing from them without consulting those veterans. And we understand that there is a purpose for the dollars. They're just parked temporarily. So I think, Madam Chair, I would make the motion that we move this bill at the appropriate time here today to the Veterans Committee, and I would like a vote on that.
Thank you, Lead Kosnick. I would refrain from using the word stealing. I don't think we're stealing. We're trying to reappropriate the money that has been sitting in an account that hasn't been used. I'm going to let the author of the bill speak on that if he wants this bill to go to veterans or not.
Madam Chair, Representative Kosnick, I don't think it needs to go to the Veterans Committee. It's not the usual path for a capital investment project. This isn't relating to how veterans programming, dollars are spent or going through the Department of Military Affairs. This is really a capital project. It's before this committee because the grant was administered by deed, and that's why we're here today. But this is really, in terms of another committee stop, a capital investment stop, and I'm happy to work with folks on this. I share your pretty strong objection to the language that Representative Kosnick was using about stealing. I think it's really inappropriate. The language, the grant here, as I mentioned, has been unspent, is going to cancel back to the general fund if we do nothing. And it was our understanding that the money was never going to be used by that other organization. It was just going to cancel back to the general fund. And I had already committed that I will work with people on it. So I think that was unfortunate language on his part, and I would oppose the motion.
All right. Do you have a follow-up, Lead Kosnick?
Yeah, thank you. Perhaps sort of shifting the money is what we're doing instead of, if you don't want to use the other term. But Madam Chair, I would make the motion that we refer this bill, House File 3608, to the Veterans Committee.
All right. Members of the committee.
And I'd like a roll call, ma'am.
All right, roll call have been requested. Roll call is granted. The motion before us is to refer this House File 3608 to the Veterans Committee. The committee legislative assistant will take the roll.
Chair Hassan,
Nope.
Vice Chair Hansen,
No.
Lead Kosnick,
Yes.
Rep. Kozlowski,
No.
Rep. Perryman,
Yes.
Rep. Ryer,
No.
Rep. Smith,
No.
Rep. Weiner,
Yes.
Rep. Weiss,
No.
Rep. Schumacher, Rep. Jean,
No.
Rep. Smith,
No, still.
Rep. Kotyza-Witthuhn.
No.
The roll has been closed. Oh, Rep. Igo,
I go aye.
With 8 ayes and 5 ayes and 8 noes, the motion does not prevail, and we'll continue discussion on the bill. Any more discussion, committee? All right, the last word on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. As I mentioned, this is not the other veterans organization, and I'm sure is a great organization. I'm happy to work with them and happy to explore ways that we can meet everybody's needs on this. Encourage members' support of the bill today.
Thank you, Rep. Stephenson. Rep. Hansen renews her motion that House File 3608 be re-referred to the Capital Investment Committee. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
All right, motion prevails, and you're on your way. Thank you for coming to this committee.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. All right, Rep. Kozlowski, you are up for filling in for Rep. Sencer-Mura, who is not here today. I'll move that House File 4105 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. And there is an author's amendment. Rep. Kozlowski, please explain your author's amendment.
Thank you, Chair, and definitely not Rep. Sencer-Mura, but proud to be standing in for her bill today. And do have the A1 amendment. This just has 2 small changes. So at first, it's adding in capacity building grants to approved partners so that we can use funds up to 5%. This will make sure that the nonprofits approved can really scale their operations as more capital is flowing in to entrepreneurs and then the commercial developers. And then the second portion is making sure that with a number of small technical changes, the language is not overly restrictive regarding the parameters of loan guarantees and low-cost loans.
All right, discussion on the A1 amendment. All those in favor of adopting the A1 amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? A1 is adopted. Please explain your bill, Rep. Kozlowski.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair, members of the committee. The bill before you is the GroundBreak Capital Access Fund, and its purpose is to expand access to capital for entrepreneurs and commercial developers. As we've heard, there are many different challenges, and part of this is a nation-leading private public philanthropic initiative that will expand wealth-building opportunities. This coalition was launched in 2022, to close racial wealth gaps in our region and across the state, and also to address the fact that Minnesota has enormous assets, yet has some of the highest racial wealth gaps in the country. And so for over 50 years, governments, nonprofits, our financial institutions, and foundations have been piloting programs that blend lots of different types of capital to expand our wealth building opportunities, but have not been financed at the scale needed to really be commensurate with the need. And so today, this coalition, the GroundBreak Coalition, is really working to do this. And through the deep collaboration, which I think is very exciting with financial institutions, philanthropy, corporations, nonprofits, and our public sector, they'll be working to unlock over $5.3 billion over the next decade to expand these opportunities through a new cohesive and strategic regional financial system. This will really shift the burden of organizing resources from nonprofits and individuals to the institutions that hold capital to really affect the change at scale and to transform our system. So this time I'd like to move it over to our testifiers.
All right. Your first testifier is Tanya Allen, President of the McKnight Foundation. Welcome to committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
So, Chair Hassan and members of the committee, it is great to be here. I find it a great privilege. My name is Tanya Allen, and as noted, I am the president of the McKnight Foundation. The McKnight Foundation is a 70-year-old family foundation that's based here in Minnesota, and our mission is to advance a more just, creative, and abundant future. So I would like to thank you for inviting me to speak today about the GroundBreak Coalition, and thank you for stepping in to support us. So following the murder of George Floyd, leaders from philanthropy, financial institutions, corporations, and the public sector came together to try and find a commitment to act bold. We tried to figure out how to commit to act boldly to create a more equitable economy and a climate-ready region. And so, as noted, the GroundBreak Coalition is really 40 private philanthropic public partners who desire to create fundamental change and to make sure that money was flowing in a consistent, reliable way to actually help close the racial economic gaps in our state. So the McKnight Foundation is a partner in this initiative with so many others, and because we recognize that our region has immense wealth and assets, but for many of our community members who live here, we know that this is really a tale of two cities, because we see that Minnesota is ranked we're the sixth worst state in the nation in terms of racial wealth disparities. So what we're attempting to try and do is really create and ensure people that bold change can happen and that Minnesota can lead that. But we also know that in order to lead that bold change, it has to go beyond just one institution. It's not just about one sector. It has to be a multi-institutional, multi-sectoral approach, and that's what GroundBreak is really fundamentally about. So in philanthropy, we have heard from community members, as many of you have heard on this committee, and what they have said to us is that they need access to capital to really help achieve their dreams. And we know that there are many people who are aspiring home buyers, aspiring entrepreneurs, aspiring wealth builders who want to, as obviously purchase a home, start a business, or even develop commercial property. And they have said that the critical missing piece is capital. And we know this is particularly true for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color who have faced both institutional barriers with access to private capital from banks, and also we know that there are generational wealth disparities that we're trying to figure out how to address as well through this effort. So GroundBreak brought together hundreds of community members to try and figure out how to solve this problem. And through that work, the coalition partners designed a regional financial system where we believe we can unlock $5 billion over the next decade to close racial wealth gaps. And it's mostly through private market capital. But in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have for every $3 in that private market capital, we need $1 in flexible capital. And we're trying to raise that flexible capital through philanthropic institutions, through public sector, and through private companies who are willing to put that together. So the strategies are designed to work for wealth builders who face some of the state's deepest and most persistent disparities. And we believe if we can put these strategies in place, that we will see communities across the board grow. This is all about growing the economic pie for everyone, but also making sure that we have targeted strategies that reach the people who have had the greatest need. This is also fundamentally about trying to scale the solution to meet the size of the problem. So right now, our coalition partners are establishing that system to flow capital, and that system right now is being piloted in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro region because we think it'll be predictable and reliable, and we want to make sure that we pilot it in a way that it's effective, that we can ensure that this pilot works. And then the goal is to expand it, obviously, in the region and to be able to expand it statewide. We've had lots of conversations with people in various metros across the state who have said, we need this too, and we agree, and we want to figure out how to help them do that for all people who have found that they have disparities regardless of what their particular identities are. And then lastly, I would just say, we believe, and it's stated before, that the onus of how we make capital available should be on the institutions that hold the capital. And that's just not something that we've seen before. Usually we still believe it should be on the people who are seeking the capital. And today, what we've seen is our partners have pulled together, the philanthropic, the corporate, the financial partners. We've committed over $927 million in capital, mostly through grants, lending, and guarantees that will be deployed through this financial system. And McKnight Foundation, our board approved one of its largest commitments ever in the history of the 70-year institution that's going to be contributing towards this effort. We believe that this is a big, a bold, and a nation-leading initiative. There is nothing of this scale, this size, or ambition across the country. We believe it can be done. I often use the quote that Nelson Mandela had, which is simply that it always seems impossible until it's done. And we believe the impossible can be done here in Minnesota, and we would love your support in doing so.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. The next testifier is Jean Crane, the president and CEO of Premier Bank. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Appreciate being here to have you hear us today. My name is Jean Crane, and I'm president and CEO of Bremer Financial Corporation, which is the holding company for Bremer Bank and Bremer Insurance. Bremer was founded in 1943 here in St. Paul, Minnesota, by German immigrant Otto Bremer. And today, we serve communities throughout the state of Minnesota, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. And we work every day to carry out our closely held purpose, which is to help cultivate thriving communities. In my capacity as Bremer's CEO, since 2017, I have been involved with the Itasca Project, and I served as co-chair of the Governor's Task Force on Housing in 2018. As a business leader, and in particularly as a business leader of a financial institution, I believe I have both the opportunity and the responsibility to help commit to real change. The uncomfortable truth is that banks have historically played a crucial role in furthering and enforcing the racist structures that systematically disadvantaged people of color for decades. Redlining, racial covenants, and bias in lending are real, and they're undeniable truths in the history of banking, with repercussions lasting for generations. And that means that banks have a critical responsibility to help build a path forward. Bremer was an early partner in the work with the GroundBreak Coalition, and we, along with other financial institutions, have been very proud to engage in GroundBreak's initiatives to advance Black homeownership. Most recently, we have been involved in the work to help develop first mortgage products, which are now being paired with the pilot program, offering $50,000 in down payment assistance that is being originated through 3 community development financial institutions in our community. Over the next 6 months, financial institutions are coming together through GroundBreak to develop banking products and solutions to better serve and, importantly, welcome entrepreneurs and small business owners of color. And that's based on extensive research and insights provided through GroundBreak's community work in their design process. While I offer my perspective as a leader of a financial institution, the beauty of GroundBreak's approach is that it emphasizes a shared responsibility by private and public organizations to help address systemic barriers by investing in those who have not been able to obtain access to what many of us take for granted. Flexible capital is critical to this effort, and state investments are even more valuable as they will be matched, maximized, and paired with private market capital. What is different about GroundBreak is that it is a comprehensive and coordinated approach, including the public, private, and philanthropic sectors, with the goals of creating new generations of business owners and homeowners to help generate wealth for many in our community where that opportunity has been missing, and finally start shrinking the equity gap. We respectfully request your partnership and support, and thank you for your time and consideration this morning.
Thank you for your testimony. I see Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce is here. Are you guys testifier or are you just in support of the bill?
Here to support.
All right. Thanks for being here. All right. Are there any other testifiers? Nope. All right. Discussion on the bill. Rep. Breyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you to the commitment to the community for this project. It's really gratifying to me to see the business, corporate world, financial world, foundation world come together on this, and I appreciate the honest recognition of painful and undeniable truths. I have a question just about the ask. $70 million is the request, and you've talked about a pilot, and so I'm not sure how those things come together, and what the pilot is and what the funding request is. Thank you.
All right. Rep. Breyer, Representative Sencer-Mura's bill, Sencer-Mura is not here today, but we'll see if we can get an answer for that. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your
Thank you, Chair Hassan. My name is Kenza Hajmus. I'm here on behalf of the Minneapolis Chamber. Representative, we use the language pilot. GroundBreak is really a startup. It's a new system, so we're beginning. So technically we're piloting things, but this really is, it's go time. It's time to establish the programs.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up, Rep. Breyer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say thank you for the clarification. It created such a different impression, just the use of one word, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Lead Kasnick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the intent of this bill. I think with Representative Reier, a little bit of concern with the financial situation of the state, and this is a rather large ask compared to some of the other bills that we have. That'll be the job of you, Madam Chair, to kind of figure out what's appropriate and what's available. But certainly from our side of the aisle, we have a concern with a looming deficit coming in the next biennium. And so the spending is probably the biggest concern. I like a lot of the reporting requirements that are in here and the audits. So I appreciate that, and I wish more people that were coming here asking for some support would incorporate that. So I do appreciate that. I had a question, and I know Deed generally is kind of silent on some of these things, but
So is the question for Deed? So should we?
well, yeah, I'm going to throw it out there. I don't know if they're here, but if somebody's here from Deed, the foundation is working with GroundBreak to establish the criteria and the procedures for determining the eligibility. Is that normal, or why isn't Deed being more involved? And so we're giving the money and letting them determine what the criteria is. If I could get some clarification on that, if any of the testifiers, or if I'd prefer to hear from the department, but.
Okay, well, we have someone from the department, but also I see head nods that you can also try to answer that.
Chair Hassan, Representative, we did work with Deed on getting technical assistance for the bill, and they offered language so that we could not include a 20-page bill with all of the criteria and procedures, but have a way that we can share what the plans are, and it would have to be reviewed and approved by the Deed Commissioner.
All right, I see a head nod from Deed. Yeah? All right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. we're not afraid of paper and a lot of words here. That's what we do. The language is important and the criteria is important. So I would like to see that in the bill, maybe at the later stages to provide, sometimes we call it comfort language, but we want to understand that the grants are well-established and thought out. So don't be afraid to add that as we wrap up a session here. But mostly it's, you know, the concern of the dollars and the spending that, not just here in this committee, but the whole legislature. We grew government, the size of the budget over 40% last year. We had a $20 billion surplus. We added taxes of $10 billion, facing a deficit now, and so that's really the concern. So appreciate the intent of the bill, and think maybe a little bit more work can be done. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Lead Kosnick. And the bill is being laid over, so we will come back to it, and hopefully the author will be here too when we come back to it. Rep. Breyer, you have more comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure the record is clear that I in no way commented on the size of the requested appropriation. Just wanted to understand what we were asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Jershang.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Kozlowski. Thank you for working on this bill, and also to Representative Sencer-Mura. I have concerns too, but my concerns are not about the lack of funding that we have here. It's the lack of funding available for our black and brown businesses. And so I appreciate you all coming forward to address these concerns in the community. And I look forward to working with you and Chair Hassan to make sure that these concerns in our black and brown communities are met, are addressed and met. And so thank you.
Thank you, Jershang. I don't see any more comments. Rep. Wiener.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I just ask one question for explanation, I guess? Coverage area. You know, it is listed as Minneapolis, but how big of an area do you foresee this? Is it pretty much just based in Minneapolis, and is any of this money going to outstate? Thank you.
GroundBreak is starting in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan regions. We're imagining the 7-county area. A lot of the partners are based in St. Paul, Minneapolis area with a goal long-term of growing statewide.
All right. Do you have a follow-up, Rep. Wiener?
Sure. I guess my concern is always, you know, I come from the poorest part of the state, basically, and a $70 million investment in my area, I would love it. You know, the disadvantaged communities that we have would be well served by something like this, but we rarely have access to money that's primarily located in the metro. So especially some of the points that were made earlier when we're looking at looming budget deficit, and we're coming from the poorest area of the state to give money to an area that, or a project that might only serve a small area, when we have communities too that need that help. It's kind of, they're again taking money from disadvantaged and shifting it to another area, and we're almost robbing Peter to pay Paul again. That's my concern. Thank you.
Rep. Wiener, need I remind you to write the bill, and we will have a hearing and bring your community here. We will definitely love to hear from your community and their needs. That's why we're here. Thank you. Rep. Harriman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the bill. My question is, it is a good bill, and what you're talking about, money's there for outstate. How can I'm from St. Cloud, I represent St. Cloud, a very dynamic community and growing. What mechanisms can we use to get more money out to our rural area? Kind of a follow-up to Rep. Wiener here, that I'm also a chamber member. I know they work well with the Minnesota Chamber as well, but I just see it sit sometimes, and I see it here because I'm a legislator, and I struggle and get kind of stressed when I go back on hear what they're talking about, and then there's money here that I could go, hey, here's a flyer, go talk to them, kind of thing. Thank you.
All right. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, Chair Hassan, members of, thank you, Representative, and we talked with Representative Sencer-Mura about a lot of this, so I just want to make sure that some of this is conveyed. I wanted to just share, there was a recent Star Tribune column in the business section that profiled GroundBreak's work, and they mentioned that GroundBreak was perhaps the largest economic development initiative in the region's history, we think that this could be really good for the state in terms of economic development and future growth of the state, as we're just thinking about budgets and forecasts in the long term. We also see that the challenges in the metro are so similar to other parts of the state. There's been years of work to go into figuring out how this deep collaboration can work with philanthropy banks. I had mentioned we had or my colleagues had a conversation with LISC in Duluth and a community bank in Duluth exactly about what's happening in the Twin Cities, kind of how can we learn and have it be replicated in Duluth. So I think there could be opportunities to really do some sharing across the regions, because once these systems are in place, which it takes time to figure them out, they can be replicated and be just really good for our entire state.
All right, thank you for that. Any other discussion? And Rep. Harriman, I want to just note on the record that last year we gave a lot of money to the Initiative Foundation, and the 6 Initiative Foundations serve Greater Minnesota only, so they don't serve the metro. I just want to put that on the record. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't trying to say that. I was just trying to say, how can I be a messenger back to my community that I serve about such good programs? That's all I was saying. I know, I'm very thankful the Initiative Foundation, all the money that's been given out there, but there's just so much need, as you know, and I struggle with how I tell my constituents back at home. You know, I watch my own bobber, 14A, so that's what I live to do. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I just want to say thank you, everyone who came and testified about this bill today. I have the privilege of representing the community of where George Floyd was killed. George Floyd Square is in my district. I have watched my community suffer trauma upon trauma, and we're still healing, we're still rebuilding, and something like this could mean a lot for a community that has had to deal with not only a murder of an innocent man, but also the civil unrest that followed that almost destroyed the businesses on Lake Street and the businesses in Minneapolis. So I'm super thankful for this coalition for bringing something like this. I know it's a year that money is tight, but we'll see what money is left, and we'll work towards figuring this out together. So thank you. Rep. Kozlowski, last words on the bill.
All right, thank you, Chair and members, for this robust conversation. Obviously, pinch hitting here for Rep. Sencer-Mura. What a reminder that this bill will be laid over, and so have another chance to have conversations, lots of notes to be able to pass this conversation along, and to the conversations about, I'm from Greater Minnesota, how do we make sure our communities are engaged and have access and a part of this? I would encourage you to now get in touch with this coalition to make sure that our cities are in line with the front of the line to make sure we get these dollars to us. But I'll just recap by saying something that Ms. Shaletta said at Black Entrepreneurs Day on the Hill a couple of weeks ago, and she said that we can't build wealth on Venmo and Cash App. We need to be banked. And fundamentally, this is also about, if we can't get banked, it means that we can't get home ownership, we can't get commercial development and entrepreneurship. And so this is really a win-win-win, working across our financial institutions, our chambers, our nonprofits, everybody really coming in and putting skin in the game is so important. This is about building Black wealth. This is about intentionally unlocking social and financial capital so that we can scale that, even opening up Black and Brown owned banks in the future at scale, and creating this new regional system that is going to bring all of these folks together to unlock that $5 billion that's going to set us on a sustainable trajectory. We know that thousands of entrepreneurs are ready and hungry to open their businesses, expand our tax bases, but there's serious challenges that we need to unlock and face. And so this is that opportunity, and we're going to continue that conversation and appreciate the opportunity to be able to present this bill and lay this over. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Kozlowski. I will renew my motion that House File 4105, as amended, is laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Thank you. I see Representative Norris is in the room. Where is his bill? Right here. While you're coming down, I'll move House File 3934 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Welcome to the committee. Rep. Norris, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Hassan and members of the committee. It's great to be with you. Thank you for hearing House File 3934 this morning. I also want to thank my bipartisan group of co-authors for their support on this legislation. It's appropriate that we're hearing this bill today as thousands of basketball fans from across the country descend on Minneapolis, and the city will be in the national conversation all week as the Caitlin Clark Show comes to town for the Big Ten women's basketball tournament. These sorts of weeks, this type of economic opportunity and media attention will become more common if we adopt this bill. Just recently, Minnesota has hosted the 2022 Women's Final Four, the MLS All-Star Game, the NHL Winter Classic, and the 2023 Big Ten Women's Basketball Tournament. This bill is about bringing the next round of exciting events to our state. Minnesota has the opportunity to use our existing event and hospitality infrastructure to host the next slate of world-class sporting events. This means jobs. This means tens of thousands of visitors. It means vitality and spending in our downtowns. And it is civic pride for school kids who cheer on these teams and play in the local legacy projects that these events fund. I have personal experience with this. I served as a volunteer member of the local organizing committee for the 2019 Men's Final Four and witnessed firsthand the energy and economic activity that it brought to Minneapolis and the whole state. I'm also a sports tourist myself, and in just the last 2 years, it's taken me to Green Bay, to Indianapolis, and even to Australia. Now, I can assure you that I would not have gone to Green Bay, Wisconsin, if it hadn't been for sports. I wouldn't have even gone to Indianapolis if it hadn't been for the sports. I probably would have gone to Australia at some point, but it probably would not have been at the top of my bucket list like it was because of the opportunity to attend the Australian Open. But you don't have to just take my word for it. I have a great team of supporters here today who can tell the stories of these events and their impact. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Wendy Blackshaw from Minnesota Sports and Events.
Thank you, Rep. Norris. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, I'm Wendy Blackshaw, and I'm the President and CEO of Minnesota Sports and Events. Minnesota Sports and Events is a 501c6, and we exist to provide maximum impact for the region's economy, image, and quality of life through the attraction, promotion, and execution of these world-class events. First off, I'd like to say thank you to the chair and the legislature for last year's appropriation that allowed our state to secure multiple mega events, and thank you this year to Representative Norris for carrying this bill. State support was critical for allowing Minnesota to compete and win the opportunity to host two incredible events, the U.S. Olympic Gymnastics Trials and the World Junior Hockey Championships. Both of these events were announced after the legislature adjourned last year, and these events will bring in conservatively an estimated economic impact of over $100 million to the state. The Olympic Trials for Gymnastics will be held this June at Target Center in front of a sellout crowd. Men and women will compete at the highest levels, including Minnesota's own gold medalist Suni Lee and world champion Simone Biles. NBC will broadcast the trials in prime time live from Target Center for multiple nights, showcasing Minnesota to the entire world. We anticipate over 100,000 athletes, families, friends, and fans that will engage in many community events and fan festivals throughout the region as Minnesota becomes the epicenter of gymnastics in the United States this summer. The World Junior Hockey Championships will come to the state of hockey in December of 2025 through January 5th of 2026, during a time when typically hotel occupancy is 5 to 10%. This international event will feature the best young hockey players in the world, representing 10 different countries, playing in 29 total games at both Mariucci and Xcel Energy Center. It is important to us to bring components of these events to communities around the state, and we work closely with Explore Minnesota Tourism to create these statewide initiatives. World Juniors will feature a pre-tournament exhibition in multiple cities in both northern and southern Minnesota. And we do have a third event that we are almost ready to announce. I hope that we had been able to announce it today, but we can't quite yet. But we will be sharing that news in the next few weeks. This event will provide an economic impact second to only the Super Bowl. The competitive landscape for bidding and securing mega events has changed since the pandemic. Cities and states recognize the incredible value these events bring to a struggling hospitality industry, and the competition has never been more fierce. Cities and states that win these events have permanent public funding for mega events. For many years, including during the Super Bowl, we relied solely on raising funds through our great corporate community who provided financial support for each individual event. We know, based on events that we have not won, without funding in place, we will not be in that consideration set. All this is to say, but for the 2023 appropriation, Minnesota would not have secured the gymnastics trials or World Juniors Hockey, or this other event we'll be announcing soon. Our goal and our need is an ongoing funding solution where Minnesota continue to draw events that fill our world-class venues, bring hundreds of thousands of fans to our state, leading to hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact. These visitors fly into our airports, they fill our hotel rooms, they eat at our restaurants, they shop in our stores, and frankly, they spend a lot of money. And oftentimes they go to other parts of Minnesota because they come here and they love it. The public money in this bill is reinvested in Minnesota. State funding covers expenses that stay here, including public safety, security, operations, permitting, transportation, local union labor, and venue costs. This funding has led and will continue to lead to additional tangible results. Representative Norris just mentioned, we are kicking off March Madness here. We're so proud to announce that we are the first community ever to sell out the Big Ten women's basketball tournament. And next week, men's Big Ten will come to Target Center as well. So over the next 2 weeks, we expect over 100,000 fans to visit Minnesota to watch the best college basketball in the country. Minnesota Sports and Events thanks the committee for your attention and your consideration of our request. And I actually have a video from Lou Nanny, who is a hockey icon in Minnesota. If we could.
Is it a short video?
Very short. It's a minute, like less than a minute.
Is it the same video we watched last year? Or no? Okay.
It's from this.
Okay, all right.
Going away video.
Okay, all right.
Hi, Lou Nanny here. I just want to thank you for your support. We are so excited to have one of the crown jewels of hockey coming to Minnesota 2025-2026. That's the World Junior Tournament. We're so fortunate to have this because this is world renowned. For instance, in the U.S. NHL Network will have stuff about Minnesota on 2 weeks, 3 weeks in a row. Same thing in Canada with TSN, same thing all over Europe. And we are fortunate because so many people will be coming to this area to help out the state of Minnesota by their spending, by their participation in that tournament. The retailers, the hotel people, the restaurant people, everybody's going to benefit. But we as citizens of Minnesota, residents of Minnesota, are going to be the ones benefiting the most because people are going to realize what a great state this is. And this is what the state needs at this time. So thanks for the support because you are making it happen.
All right, we have another testifier. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Hi, good morning. My name is Fartun Osman. I'm a CEO GroundBreak organization. Thank you, Mr. Hassan. And good morning, Chair, Mr. Hassan, and Vice Chair. Hello. and a member of the community. My name is Fortuna Osman, and I'm founder of GroundBreak organization, member of our organization to push help young Somali Muslim girls to succeed in sport and education. Minnesota sport event bring a big event and big names and big excitement to our state. Its impact on our community runs much deeper. I'm sorry, I forgot my.
You're good. You're good. You're doing
I
okay.
forgot my eyeglasses, so it's too small for me. So Minnesota is thank you.
Much better.
Yes. Thank you so much. Minnesota sport event bring a big event, big names, big excitement to our state, but its impact our community runs much deeper. Which event in Minnesota advance community initiatives, and which focus on underserved community and engagement across the state. Each event leads to the important event in the local neighborhood, at the schools, community centers, playground. This investment toward the program is a meaningful and physical asset to the long-lasting during the Women Final Four 2022 Minnesota, an event organization to the Final Four statewide reading competition, helping boost the literacy elementary school across the state. Minnesota also created the Thailand 950 University Championship Tours, which honor, celebrated, contribute the Minnesota women athlete leaders have met to the Advanced Girls and Women Sports Day. We dedicate a new outdoor court, Half STEM Academy in representing Edgeburn District, providing kids with the blessed to play basketball generation to come. And we devoted several Native American initiatives focusing initiative including investing more than 200 in kids, families, and for halftime show highlight the Native American communities, especially clinic for players and coaches. All of that for just one event, the Final Four. I personally recently saw community initiatives action early this month. Minnesota hosted a National Girls Women's Sports Day celebration Mall of America. There was free basketball clinic, local youth, all showcase highlighted support for our Somali community. That day will inspire tons of young girls, Somali youth to amaze leadership in the community. Imagine collaborative impact of this event will have for the community if we continue to monitor this. I think Minnesota event is a good event, and they deserve it at this bill.
Thank you, Fortuna, and thank you the work that you're doing with young girls. I'm familiar with your work, so I appreciate you training young girls, not only with sports skills, but also with self-esteem and finding a space that they belong in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, I just come back last night for trip for Olympic Committee, and I'm one of the sported medical for Olympic Committee. I know what sportsmen to our state, also all worldwide, and we were 4,500 people who just get ready Olympic coming up in this August in Paris. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And also Fortuna used to be a basketball player in Somalia. So she was a famous person at one time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Discussion on the bill. Rep. Perryman.
Thank you, Chair. Before I ask the questions to the author, Rep. Norris, I want to preface it by saying I love hockey. I love explore tourism. I now really appreciate Minnesports and events. I just really want to point out that this is all good information, a good bill. It brings economic growth. I mean, there's nothing really that I could say that doesn't help my community as well and the whole state. So it's great that this is bringing forward. Got some money last year and asking again this year. So my question is, Rep. Norris, is the 2 blanks for the information that you're asking for. $6 million, great for the hockey, you've already designated that. But what about the 2 openings that you are looking at and how much that might be?
Representative Norris.
Chair Hassan, Representative Perryman, nothing screams optimism like the old blank appropriation in a bill. So I'll turn it over, if it's okay, to Ms. Blackshaw to talk a little bit more about the funding that would be required.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chair. The reason that we went with a blank appropriation, in order to be competitive, the ask is $25 million and of permanent funding. We also recognize that this year is a different situation. And we don't want to come back every single year and ask for, an appropriation for each event. But frankly, we believe that any appropriation is helpful. So we made the determination that we would ask for a blank appropriation for this year, just recognizing the funding constraints.
Rep. Perryman, do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you for that information. You're right, Rep. That is glaring in the bill. I mean, a short bill, too, so it really stands out. But good work. My concern will be, and as everybody knows, we're stressed on funding and cash and that, all the things that are going on and what we've already spent. So I understand what you're saying. I just hopefully, before we might take it to a vote, that we do have some numbers filled in. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be laying the bill over, so this won't be the last time you see this bill, hopefully. Lead Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Norris, I'm not sure what to say about your optimism about a blank appropriation, but, we've had was it this week or I think it was, or last week, we had the February forecast that shows in the tails we have a deficit looming if we continue to spend the state's money. Are you not concerned about the future deficit with these blank appropriations, and why didn't you put an actual appropriation in there when you signed your name on the bill?
Representative Norris.
Chair Hassan, Representative Koznick. Like all Minnesotans, I have a deep appreciation for the importance of fiscal responsibility. I believe that when we introduced this bill, we wanted to start a conversation. We didn't know what the February forecast was going to look like. We didn't know what the state's financial picture was going to be. And so we said, let's start the conversation. Today is a continuation of that conversation. And I think I have great confidence in this committee and my ability to work with the members of this committee to find an appropriate level of investment while also safeguarding the state's financial future, but making sure that we can make the critical investments we need to bring economic opportunity to the state of Minnesota through these events that are going to generate ticket revenue. They're going to generate hospitality revenue. They're going to generate sales tax and other forms of revenue for the state, which will hopefully in the long run actually help to improve the state's, what I would say, is currently a strong financial position, but one we need to be looking at what's happening down the road.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just close here. Thanks for the comments. I don't know that it's fiscally responsible to leave blank appropriations when we have a deficit looming, but I do appreciate the answer, Representative Norris. And the intent of the bill, we met with the advocates. There's good parts of it, but the concerns are the blank appropriations, the ongoing appropriations. We've had discussion on that. We're going to lay it over. And Representative Norris, I just think it would be more fiscally responsible to actually put dollars in there before the bill is kind of introduced rather than just a blank checkbook of the state. So that's really our only concern.
Lead Kosnick, I heard Representative Norris say that the bill was written before knowing our state's current budget forecast. So I don't see how that can be fiscally irresponsible if we didn't know what's happening with our state. Having a blank appropriation meant that we're going to see what happens, and we're going to start the conversation. And I always welcome the conversation in this committee. At the end, we all decide what happens, but at least to have the conversation of, like, this is a need that's out there that our community needs, and we know that our downtown could use some activities. I don't know if you have been to downtown Minneapolis. There's not a whole lot of activity happening, so we would love for those hotels to be filled and people bussing around downtown, and this building, all the downtown buildings to be filled with people who are either visiting or staying, whichever one it is. So that's why I appreciate this conversation. I just have a quick question for Ms. Blackshaw. I would like just to have a bit conversation about the ask. This is a great way to attract businesses in our downtown corridors, but also what are the steps that your organization and the advocates that you're working with will take to make sure that pieback businesses are included in this, and it's not just mainstream, corporate businesses that are benefiting this, but small businesses that are on Lake Street, on University Avenue, are also included in this conversation and can benefit from this state investment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We actually have a diversity committee that is a part of Minnesota Sports and Events, and what we're doing is exactly what you're talking about. Is, when these events come into the market, they're hiring vendors, they're hiring people to print signs and to put on the events. So there are many, many vendors, and we have a goal of bringing on 30% of vendors who are working on this in the minority-owned businesses, and so it is something that is really important to us. In addition to that, we do have community initiatives that are always attached to these. We built a playground and a basketball court in North Minneapolis. We are doing 2 events in the coming weeks where we are giving video equipment and a new floor to rec centers, one in St. Paul, one in Minneapolis. So yes, we want to sell tickets to the event, but it's almost more important what we do with the community and to leave a lasting legacy as a part of these events.
Thank you. I would like to continue this conversation offline. Any more comments? Rep. Feist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if Representative Norris knows, but I was born and raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I don't know why you wouldn't want to visit Green Bay for some other reason than sports. But I just wanted to speak in support of this bill, even though Green Bay was maligned. My office is downtown Minneapolis, and when the Super Bowl came, it was just incredible, like the energy and all of the foot traffic and the food, and I just saw like what an economic engine that sporting event was. I also did literally everything when the MLB All-Star game was here. I did like all the games, and I went to all the events, and it was just like an incredible, like there was just so much energy in the downtown area. And it's great to see that these aren't just one-off things, but that we're making strategic, proactive investments to keep bringing these types of events to Minnesota. So I am a strong supporter. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Feist. I don't see any more comments. Final word on the bill. Rep. Norris.
Thank you, Chair Hassan. In light of Representative Feist's comments, I'll say that I think of this bill as the "we're better than Indianapolis" bill. I look at what Minnesota has to offer. We've got a thriving economy. Despite some of the doom and gloom, we've got a surplus this year. If we're fiscally responsible, we will continue to have a surplus in the next biennium. And that's because we have amazing businesses. We have amazing culture. We have high quality of life. And I think about what Minneapolis and Minnesota can offer compared to places like Indianapolis. We should be bringing people here to our amazing state. And the reason Indianapolis gets events like this over Minnesota and Minneapolis is because they've decided to invest resources in helping to defray the cost of organizing these events. I think Minnesota's got a lot to offer. This bill is a way that we can make a smart investment in what will grow economic opportunity in an already thriving state.
Thank you, Rep. Norris. I will renew my motion that House File number 3934 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next bill is Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, House File 4039. I'll move House File 4039 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm really excited to share House File 4039 with the committee today. And I will just give a very brief overview and allow my testifier to share a little bit more about what his organization does. But the New American Development Center was founded in 2008 to address the challenges that are facing the growing African immigrant population in the Twin Cities area and throughout Minnesota. Over the years, they have developed life-changing programs for youth, families, entrepreneurs, and small business owners that focus around business management, marketing, financials, budgeting, cash management, cash flow, et cetera, and other topics that are crucial for business initiation and long-term financial stability. NADC is a resident or constituent-driven organization so that their programs and services are a direct response to the needs, concerns, and changing circumstances in the lives of the immigrant community here in Minnesota. I will now turn it over to my testifier, a former constituent of mine, Asad Aloued, their executive director.
Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, Chair Hassan and members of the committee. My name is Asad Aloued. I'm the executive director and founder of New American Development Center. New American Development Center was founded in 2008 to address the challenges facing the East African immigrant population. Through those years, we have developed a life-changing programs and services. New American, over the past 15 years, we have supported the East African Somali community by increasing home ownerships, training entrepreneurs, providing access to microloans, promoting business resiliency, and devising solutions for increasing access to financing products and practices, especially alternative culturally appropriate financing. For the past couple of years, New American Development Center provided a technical assistance to 350 East African Somali small business owners and entrepreneurs. We managed for the state of Minnesota COVID relief grants through the state's deed, totaling about $890,000. So we managed that grants for the state. We serve as a emerging entrepreneur loan program administrator for the Minnesota Department of Economic Development DEED, providing access to over $395,000 in loans for African immigrant borrowers in 2023. We managed cultural malls grants, over $500,000. During the COVID, when the shutdown happens, we've been the only immigrant organization that has been open all the time, even when the governor issued the shutdown. So from March 2020 till December of last year, we partnered with Minnesota Finance Housing MHFA and City of Minneapolis and Hennepin County. So we provided rent, mortgage, and utility assistance to 6,789 families. We advanced fair housing practicing in equity in place coalition. We serve as Minnesota chapter of Opportunity Starts at Home Coalition. NDC was part of the Lake Street Corridor Management Committee to rebuild and revitalize Lake Street, helping many immigrant-owned businesses stay open, and we also help them get access to government grants, loans, and micro-lendings. This funding will improve our capacity to sustain and express these services and programs, reaching more community members, facilitate access to capital. This funding funding will create more businesses, build wealth, and increase immigrant family self-sufficiencies. Thank you for taking my time and to hear this bill. I am happy to stand up for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Ali Wade, for your testimony. Is there any other testifier for this bill?
No.
Okay, all right. Discussion on the bill. Lead Kosnick.
Madam Chair, there is an amendment that was submitted. The A1.
Oh, yeah, we do have an amendment to the A1 amendment.
If it's
All right.
appropriate, I would move the A1 amendment.
All right. A1 amendment has been moved. It's before the committee. Would you explain your amendment, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn. I appreciate the work and the intent of the bill. There's a lot of talk here in Minnesota about allowing more, becoming a sanctuary state and having non-citizens kind of becoming a haven for non-citizens in the state. With the new American Development Center and that, if the state is providing funds, we just want to make sure that it is for U.S. citizens and, you know, obviously Minnesota citizens then. And so that's what the A1 amendment does.
Can I ask a question, Lead Kosnick?
Sure.
Is there any program in the state of Minnesota that requires a citizenship, or would this be setting a new precedent because the name of this entity is called New American?
Okay.
Is there any program that we have a citizenship requirement? Is there any program in the state of Minnesota that has citizenship requirement today that says it's only for citizens? Or are we setting a new precedent because the bill before us says New Americans, and there's the fear that there are people coming here that are not Minnesotans, are not citizens, that we're, you know, afraid that they may take resources away from us. I just want to understand the intent behind this amendment.
Yeah, thank you for restating the question and clarifying. There is, the political landscape has kind of been reawakened with a bill introduced to kind of make Minnesota a haven for non-citizens to come here, and so that drove the concern and the purpose. And so I don't know if it's a new standard, but I think taxpayers and many citizens and Minnesotans are concerned about taxpayer resources that they should continue to be used for Minnesota residents and U.S. citizens.
All right, discussion on the amendment. Zheshang.
Representative Cosner, are you saying that non-citizens people don't pay taxes here in our state?
Lead Kosnick.
Madam Chair, no.
Do you have a follow-up, Zheshang?
Yeah, because when they go buy things or they work, they do pay taxes. So I think you might need to get your information right.
All right, Rep. Feist has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a lot of thoughts. I just looked up taxes paid by immigrants in Minnesota. The most recent data is $5.2 billion, 24,040 immigrant entrepreneurs in the state of Minnesota. And the Congressional Budget Office recently, in the last couple of weeks, released data saying that immigrants will increase the United States GDP by $3 trillion over the next 10 years. So to the extent that we have a workforce that is plateauing in the metro area and actually is going to decline in future years according to our state demographer, we do want immigrants to be here to meet that economic need, and we do want to invest in them to unlock their economic potential. So that's just a high-level philosophical point to make. And then also, I was just noting that this requirement doesn't include permanent residents. And many people are here for their entire lives as permanent residents and don't want to become U.S. citizens because their countries don't allow them to have dual citizenship. And so they don't want to lose their other country, oftentimes just for travel. Just wanted to make that point that people are here for their whole lives, sometimes as permanent residents. and we shouldn't exclude them. And then I was thinking about non-immigrants, so people who are here on temporary visas, and I often work with immigrant entrepreneurs. And I was thinking about a client I had who started a business while he was on a temporary H-1B visa. And then he switched to an E-2 investor visa so he could focus on his investment. And then he got his green card based on this company that he grew to now have over 100 workers. So I don't really think we should be excluding those types of non-immigrants from this bill as well. And then one other thought is just that immigration documents are confusing. So there are multiple documents that you can provide to prove you are a U.S. citizen, and sometimes people are citizens by operation of law and don't even have documentation. And I just hate it when we ask anybody but the immigration experts to interpret immigration documents. I just think it is really problematic, and we don't want to get in the way of unlocking all of this entrepreneurial potential. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Feist. Any other comments? Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
As to close the amendment, I would ask for a roll call, and I do appreciate and recognize the important significance that legal immigrants and legal status are here, and I also understand and recognize that there are many undocumented Minnesotans here, but when we're using taxpayer dollars, the intent and the expectation from constituents is that those tax dollars and subsidies be for legal citizens.
All right, roll call has been requested, and roll call is granted, and I'll give you the last word on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask members to vote against this amendment. I did my research, and to answer your previous question, Madam Chair, there are no other deed grant programs for economic development or workforce development that require proof of legal status in Minnesota currently. And so while I think that perhaps this conversation is valid to consider in light of some of the other proposals that have come forward this year. Representative Kosnick, I think, perhaps it could be introduced as a standalone bill that would impact all other grant programs and not just the New American Development Center.
Thank you. The clerk will take the roll.
Chair Hassan?
No.
Hassan, no. Vice Chair Hansen?
No.
Vice Chair Hansen? No. Lee Kosnick?
Yes.
Lee Kosnick? Yes. Rep. Feist?
No.
Rep. Feist? No. Rep. Igo?
Igo, yes.
Rep. Igo? Yes. Rep. Kotyza-Witthuhn?
No.
Rep. Kotyza-Witthuhn? No. Rep. Kozlowski?
No.
Rep. Kozlowski? No. Rep. Perryman?
Perryman, yes.
Rep. Perryman? Yes. Rep. Ryer?
No.
Rep. Ryer? No. Rep. Schumacher?
Schumacher, aye.
Rep. Schumacher? Yes. Rep. Smith?
No.
Rep. Smith? No. Rep. Wiener?
Yes.
Rep. Wiener? Yes. Rep. Zhang?
Nope.
Rep. Zhang? No. With that, the roll is closed.
With 9 noes and 4 ayes, the motion does not prevail, and the amendment is not adopted. Discussion on the bill. Rep. Igo.
Thank you, Chair. My question is just kind of when we're looking at the bill itself, something really good that I think that's been coming out of this committee has been lots of reporting mechanisms so we can know just how effective our dollars are. And I just wanted to ask the bill author why we don't have any reporting mechanisms in this legislation today.
Mr. Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that question. So the New American Development Center was actually in consideration for some of the previous investments that we did out of this committee last year. And it would be my expectation, I guess that was an oversight, honestly, on my part, to leave out some of the same reporting requirements that have been included in other bills. So this bill is also being laid over, and I would definitely be open to an addition.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yep, thank you for that, because I think that's a great thing for us as we work through this committee in the future. We can see, how many dollars did we gain by investing this and the good deeds that we're doing, because that's messages like we talked about earlier. Like Representative Perrin was saying, we can go home to our districts and say, this is why we put money, taxpayer dollars in places like this when they return on investment and provide growth to our communities. So thank you for that, for taking that, and I look forward to seeing it get fixed.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Jerry Shang.
Madam Chair, as Chair of the Workforce Committee and as a member who has sat on the Jobs Committee for the last 4 years, I do know that D does require a report. And so we don't need to be redundant on that because it's going to happen.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. Any other comments? I just want to note this on the record that I am familiar with the work that New American Development does in the community. I have seen them, work extensively during COVID with community when everything was shut down and businesses couldn't go to an office to fill out a form and everything was online. And many of our communities, they don't have a computer, they don't have a printer, they don't have a scanner, and everything, all the business support was done online. They stepped up. They were the ones that were, opening their door to these small businesses and saying, okay, here, bring your documents, we will upload it, we will send it for you, we'll help you fill out this application. I have seen them, carry a lot of burden on their shoulders and fill in the gaps when there are gaps in the community and there is a need for services that they're providing. So thank you for your work. And last word on the bill, Rep. Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Thank you, Chair Hassan. And thanks for the discussion today, members. I think, some of the presentations that we've seen over the last year or so from some of the experts in industry and from the department, and really looking at where business development trends in Minnesota have been going and how the immigrant population, our wonderful and diverse population that we have here across the state of Minnesota is doing to support our economy. And so my district in Eden Prairie, I have a very large wonderful Somali population. And so, like I said, Assad used to be one of my constituents, and I see the power of entrepreneurship in my community, and I see it all across the metro area and the state as well. And I think that life is all about choices, right? Our budget is all about choices and priorities. And so when we consider the investments that we make, and the return that we're going to get on those investments, I think, when we think about investing in childcare, we know that that's going to help parents get back to work. It's going to help businesses hire more employees. It's going to help businesses expand to different parts of the state. When we look at investing in people and helping them get homes, we look at investing in people and helping them start businesses that could then impact their family and their community and the state as a whole. Those investments come back to us so many times over. And while we are looking at our fiscal future in Minnesota, I think that these smart investments are going to be tremendous down the line and bringing back more revenue to the state and allowing us to thrive.
Thank you, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn renews her motion that House File 4039 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. Thank you. With no other business in front of us, we are adjourned.